Hello YouTube, this is VidHead85, and I just want to, I guess I'll call this the Arizona special. So these are three stories that I have picked regarding the election, regarding the midterm elections in Arizona. From KSNW Wichita, Liz Cheney trolls Keri Lake after losing Arizona governor's race. You're welcome. Okay. From the Hill. Representative Liz Cheney, Republican of Wyoming, appeared on Monday to troll Arizona Republican gubernatorial candidate Keri Lake after she was projected to lose in her race for governor. In a tweet on Monday, Cheney quoted a tweet from Lake from late last month, including a letter that mockingly thanked the congresswoman for her anti-endorsement. Cheney had weighed in on the race by urging voters to cast a ballot against her fellow Republican. "You're welcome," at Keri Lake, Cheney said in her tweet Monday. In her letter to Cheney, Lake said donations to her campaign had skyrocketed and her website crashed. Lake also noted Cheney's loss in her own election. "Thank you again for the huge boost to our campaign. Enjoy your forced retirement from politics," Lake said in her letter. "I know America will rest easier knowing that one more warmonger is out of office." Cheney, a critic of Trump and one of two Republicans serving on the committee beginning January 6th, last month that targeted Lake and the GOP nominee for Secretary of State, Mark Finchem, who have publicly touted Trump's continued false claims that the 2020 election was stolen. Cheney's tweet came just after Arizona counties reported its latest round of ballots and after several networks called the race for Hobbs. Okay, and then, speaking of calling the race for Hobbs, here is one that didn't go particularly well. Sean Hannity's from The Independent. Sean Hannity's sulking announcement of Arizona governor race or results goes viral. Weak, hypocritical, sore loser. Your desperation is rather desperate. Fox News host slammed for claiming Katie Hobbs should have recused herself by Bevan Hurley. Sean Hannity was labeled a hypocritical sore loser for taking a cheap shot at Katie Hobbs while morosely calling the Arizona's governor's race for her live on air. Apparently, they did have a drop in Arizona, and Fox is projecting the Democratic Secretary of State, who should have recused herself, Katie Hobbs, had been elected governor of Arizona. Fox News host announced toward the end of his 8 p.m. show on Monday. A clip of Hannity's unenthusiastic race call racked up nearly 1 million views by Tuesday morning, 13 hours after being posted by the @ACYN account. Mr. Hannity's suggestion that Ms. Hobbs, as Secretary of State, should have withdrawn from having oversight of the Arizona elections brought comparisons to Georgia governor's race in 2018, when Republican Brian Kemp beat Stacey Abrams after refusing to recuse himself as Secretary of State. I also want to say that that is quite different because Mr. Kemp has a huge and long storied history of refusing to process thousands and thousands of black voters registrations right ahead of elections. So one of these things is not like the other. Let's move on. Real weighed in on Twitter saying, "Did I forget them telling us Brian Kemp needed to recuse himself as Secretary of State in his first run for governor? What a weak, hypocritical, sore loser," another user wrote in reply. Tennis legend, okay, it's loading them. Tennis legend Martina Navratilova, a frequent commentator on U.S. politics, wrote, "She should have recused herself. Really, Sean? Your desperation is rather desperate." Sour grapes from Hannity, another posted. Ms. Hobbs Monday night after the Associated Press projected that the latest round of ballots have her an unassailable lead over Miss Lake in one of the most keenly watched races in the country. The Democrat has a lead of 20,000 over her election-denying opponent, who refused to concede and described the call as BS in a tweet. So there it is. Third story and our last will be this one. And it is about, I forget what it is. What is it? Oh, this is a good one. MSNBC reporter unloads on Keri Lake now that her campaign has ended in defeat. Okay. MSNBC's Vaughn Hilliard unloaded on Arizona gubernatorial candidate Keri Lake now that she has been projected as the loser. The correspondent covered the race in his native Arizona, and he was clearly in the mood to drop his professional reservations a bit when he was asked by Morning Joe host Joe Scarborough to comment on the 2020 election conspiracist now that Democrat Katie Hobbs was declared the winner. Look, I covered Keri Lake for the better part of a year and a half here, and I think it was fitting to be here at Mar-a-Lago. Finally flew yesterday from Arizona to Palm Beach, Florida, and essentially felt like I was covering Donald Trump's campaign of 2024, but in Arizona last year, Hilliard began. Dedicated the campaign by trying to sell the big lie and the conspiracy theories. When she wonders how she lost the race, look at it. This is the third election cycle in which Arizonans rejected Trumpism. In the final week of her campaign, she campaigned alongside Steve Bannon. She campaigned alongside the chief promoters of Pizzagate. She campaigned alongside an individual who promoted a notion of a war on white people. She campaigned State Senator Wendy Rogers, who just earlier this year was in Florida speaking at a white nationalist conference, someone who frequently spews anti-Semitism. This is an individual who just last week called her Democratic opponent a pervert. This is an individual who suggested there should be perp walks for election officials, criminal charges for individuals who oversaw COVID response in Arizona, Hilliard continued. This is an individual who celebrated putting a dagger into the McCain machine to end America. She called Mike Lindell one of the greatest patriots of our time. She said Dinesh D'Souza is one of the greatest patriots in America. And she suggested Rep. Paul Gosar was the kind of lawmaker our founding fathers envisioned. She called the media the right hand of the devil, the scourge of the earth. If that doesn't sound like Donald Trump, I don't know what does. Ultimately, the question was she able to make that sell here, he added. The answer, when you look at the slate of election deniers, she was the latest one to fall, making it a clean sweep of those candidates and Secretary of State candidates, and now Donald Trump will try to run on the message. Whoa, okay, this I think was the very best to definitely end this on, and I just loved that, because that is a denial. That is what Trumpism has been. It is someone that has that brings up the worst in America, the very history of America, and tries to make it the future. It's not happening. I mean, yes, we have a lot of racists in this country. We have a lot of bigots in this country too. But the bottom line is, I am just tired of this entire thing. Like, I'm tired of especially white racists acting as if they're the only people that are of any consequence or matter. Thanks so much for joining me for this Arizona special. You have a great day, and talk to you soon.